Hello, everyone, and warm welcome to tonight's Love Lab. My name is Philip, and I am one of the founders and CEO of Relate, which is behind this webinar series. And the topic of tonight is a very intriguing and interesting one, and we're going to hold it today in English because we have our hosts in English. And it's about our hot buttons and triggers in relationships and how we can learn to manage them and also understand why we have them and how they can teach us what our different fears and needs are in relationships in order to better meet them. And with us tonight, we have two of the perhaps most certified and experienced relationship experts that we've had so far on the Love Labs, which is Daniela Zambrana and Chris Spicer. And with backgrounds in psychotherapy, integral theory, core energetics, and perhaps most relevant for tonight, relationship mentoring and couples therapy. They have accumulated a mountain of expertise when it comes to understanding how we humans work, and especially in relationships. So I am super excited to have you guys here and to learn more about managing my own triggers and learning my own needs and fears.
So hi everyone. Good night, good evening. So I'm living in Vienna. I have a private practice working here on and online with individuals, couples, groups and businesses, and I'm a psychological counselor, a core energetic practitioner, which is a modality of body psychotherapy, and also a neurosensory coach, which I work with elements of occupational therapy and polyvagal theory, so to say, and a lot more. And Chris is my partner. I work together with him on online couples counseling, and he's my co-therapist. So here is Chris.
Hi. It's an early afternoon time for me here outside of somewhere between Boston and New York City. Yeah, I guess you've now heard we have training in core energetics, practitioners in core energetics, exceptional relationship mentoring, which is an offshoot of core. It's based in core energetics. I also have integral coaching background. I'm also a Zen practitioner, so I do a lot of interesting work with emotional reactivity in contemplative settings as well. So, as Donnie mentioned, we have our project, our practice online, and at the heart of our work, really the heart of exceptional relationship work, is conflict, because we see conflict as a really counterintuitive but good path, important path to love and intimacy. We use conflict as a defense. That's probably a pretty obvious idea to everyone here. But really what we're defending is not just the issue of the moment, right, what's happening right now, but a whole lifelong history, and particularly some stuck ideas back from early childhood when we were not so well developed and created defenses, not only behavioral, but in our bodies as well. So core energetics works with those stuck places, particularly in our body. Yeah, just a little bit more about core. It's a somatic psychotherapy. It's also a little bit, it's an evolutionary process. So it works with whole being, body, mind, spirit, emotions. And what we're trying to do with core is bring consciousness to our life force as expressed through the body in movement, in voice, in breath, in all kinds of physical expression. So you can find out lots of information about core energetics online. We welcome you to do that. And back to Donnie, yeah?
Yeah. So before we start, we want to just to remind you that this is being recorded. So if you don't want to see yourself in a few weeks in YouTube, you should put your camera off. And our structure for this evening is we're going to have 3 short theory parts to guide you through the short process. We are going to have 3 questions on that theory so that you can take some notes for yourself. Maybe you want to grab a pen and a paper. And then we're going to try to encourage you, some of you at least, to share openly here and share your thoughts about the questions we made or about the experiential. And we know some of you don't like it, so if you want to switch also your camera off, that's fine. At least we can hear you. And if not, maybe you can share in the chat. Yeah, regarding the chat, we're not really gonna take care of it in the sense of it's just too much for us to take care of the teaching and the questions and everything, but we will have a look in between if we have time to maybe see the sharings. And if you have any questions, put them in the chat. Philip will collect and filter the questions, and we will go back to them at the end. There will be, after we finish, after an hour, there will be some questions and answers, and we'll be gladly answering your questions. So let me share the agenda for today. Hold on. This is so there we are. I need some time. So, oh yes, there we are. Oh, sorry. So this is how we're gonna move forward in this hour. We're gonna have a look to your hot buttons, to your trigger points. We're gonna explore how you express, or how do we usually express whatever has been triggered, the triggered emotion. This is what we call mask behavior. We're also gonna look what is underneath your trigger point. So what are the hidden or not acknowledged, or probably not conscious feelings and fears around that. And at the end, we're gonna have a look to our basic needs, because as you will see at the end, our biggest longings, our biggest fears, and this is really the journey to meet that fears and that longings, and to communicate and relate from that vulnerable place. So I'm gonna switch over to Chris, and he's gonna start with our first exercise. So,
yeah, we want to actually, it's difficult being in a virtual forum. We love to work in person a lot, but we're going to show you a little film clip to try and get some feelings worked up, right? And it's from just a couple of minutes from a film called Revolutionary Road. It's probably about, back in 2004, 2005. So let me go right to that. And what we're inviting you to do is just feel the energy of the movie. You won't know the story in particular, except when it starts. The couple in the film have just started a fight. And so you'll see that happen. And just watch how they interact, what their bodies are doing, what the feelings are, what comes up for you. So I'll go to sharing. And here we go.
What are you doing?
Sweetheart, let's talk about this, okay?
Please don't do that.
Come on now.
Don't touch me.
April.
You just leave me alone!
Okay. It strikes me that there's a considerable amount of bullshit going on here, and there's just a few things that I'd like to clear up, all right? Number one, it's not my fault that the play was lousy, okay? Number two, it sure as hell isn't my fault that you didn't turn out to be an actress. And the sooner you get over that little piece of soap opera, the better off we're both going to be. Number three, I don't happen to fit the role of dumb, insensitive suburban husband. You've been trying to lay that crap on me ever since we moved out here, and I'm damned if I'll wear it. Number four, April. April! April! What the hell are you doing? Get back in the car!
No, I will in a minute. Just let me stand here for a second.
God damn it. April, can you please just get back in the car and talk about this instead of running all over Route 12?
Haven't I made it clear I don't particularly want to talk about it?
I mean, Jesus, I'm trying to be nice about this thing here, for God's sake.
Oh, how kind of you. How terribly, terribly kind of you.
Wait a minute, I don't deserve this.
You're always so wonderfully definite on the subject of what you do and don't deserve.
Wait a minute. Wait a goddamn... April, now you listen to me. This is one time you're not going to get away with twisting everything that I say, April. This just happens to be one goddamn time. I know I'm not in the wrong here.
Christ, I wish you'd stayed
You know
home.
what you are when you're like this, April? You're sick. I really mean that. You're sick.
Do you know what you are?
What?
You're disgusting.
Oh, yeah?
You don't fool me, Frank. Just because you got me safely in this little trap, you think you can bully me into feeling whatever you want me to feel.
In a trap.
Yeah.
You in a trap.
Me,
Jesus
Frank.
Christ.
Me.
Don't make me laugh.
Pathetic, self-deluded little boy. Look at you. Look at you and tell me how by any stretch of the imagination you can call yourself a man.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Okay. So just feel into what's going on for you right now after watching that. Lots of high energy, lots of reactivity. That's what triggers are, right? Both of these people highly triggered. And we want you to settle into our activities and our teaching today, to find your own experience. It might be something like that. Find a recent conflict that you've been engaged in. It could be with a partner, it could be with a family member, someone that you know pretty well. And that's maybe happened recently, although it might be also a conflict that you get into habitually. You know, it's a thing that happens over and over with this particular person. If you can draw that memory to mind, and hopefully we can sort of attach a little bit of the energy that came up from watching the film clip to your story. And I want to just guide you through a little short meditation as you hold that image of that conflict. So this is, first of all, starting with feeling. What feelings are up as you think about that? Is there sadness? Is there anger? Is there confusion? Is there embarrassment? And sort of identify those feelings. And then we want to drop into the body component of those. Of course, those emotions, those feelings are inside. But you already sense a bit of maybe contraction going on, especially we were assuming that this is a set of negative emotions. So there's likely contraction. Pay attention to your breath, for example. Is it maybe more shallow than normal? Or is it jittery? And what else about some tightness, maybe in the jaw or in the shoulders or in the heart, chest area, down in the belly? Just do a bit of a body scan and locate those points where you feel discomfort, tightness. This is the body contracting. And also notice whether they're changing. Maybe they go numb. Maybe they come more alive as you keep the thoughts around that particular story and that particular person. It's hard sitting here, I know, without that person. Maybe that person's close by, but the best you can, see how it changes, see how it shifts, and even it might be fading away. So that's a somatic experience of conflict. Donnie?
So after this little meditation, and hopefully you still have the feeling in your body, so you can kind of take it as a resource. Let's reflect on some of the questions we have prepared for you, which are, what are your hot buttons, right? What did you react to maybe in the film or maybe in your personal life? Is it being yelled at you? Is it being lied? Is it being betrayed? Being ignored, right? What is it? And maybe you want to take some notes for yourself. So how do you react, and how does the other react? What do you do? Like what is your go-to place? Do you swallow down? You yell back? You're yelling back? You slam the door and disappear, or you just smile? Is it more a passive aggressive, or do you go silent? What do you do? And what's your experience in the body? How do you have a conscious body experience while you are in conflict, or is it you just disconnecting from your body? What does, do you notice your jaw, the tension in your jaw or in your chest? As Chris was saying, what happens? So maybe one of you wants to share about and give some answers to these questions. And if not, just make some notes for yourself.
There's, let's see, who's that? Malin?
Yeah.
Has her hand up?
Yeah.
Let's see
Malin,
if
can you...
maybe we can stop the share, Donnie, and we can find Malin. You have to unmute yourself, Malin, if you...
And Malin is probably made a mistake with a hand.
Oh.
Okay, so, Sarah, I don't know who was first, Sorina or Sarah. Maybe some of you want to unmute?
Yes. Okay. Go ahead.
I can start sharing. My trigger button is when I'm being ignored by someone. And usually my reaction is I start yelling and slamming the door. And the sensation in the body usually is tightness in the jaw and pressure on my chest. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorina, you want to share now?
Yes. Hello.
Hi.
So my triggers are when I feel that they don't understand me. So a feeling that I'm saying something, but they cannot, or my partner cannot understand. And I arrive to like a stopping point, like a point that I feel there is no solution. So confusion, and my breath is stopped. I start to yelling, screaming, and sometimes completely in the opposite way, completely be silent.
Okay. Okay. So
Thank
this
you.
is your place to go, huh? Okay. Thank you for sharing. Take some notes. We're gonna work on that, so that's gonna be have a more complete picture afterwards, I guess, or I hope. We hope, right? Yeah. So I think it's your part, right, Chris?
Yeah. So here's the first of a couple of little teachings we're going to do. We mentioned the idea, this core concept of mask behavior, and you probably have a sense already. Mask is a pretty straightforward word. It's the part of ourself. It's a way of acting in the world. It's how we present ourselves to the world, is what a mask is. But like we know about masks, they sort of cover something behind what's probably more real. And so what that mask is doing is protecting us. It's a defense, really, against well, down at the bottom, meeting our basic needs. But it comes out as a form of reactivity, like we've been hearing from Serena and Sarah. It's a defense against deeper feelings. Down underneath, down behind this mask, are feelings that are actually have a place. They're giving us lots of information and signals, but they're also pretty difficult to experience, and we don't want to feel those feelings. So we get nice, or we get angry, or we get even be quiet and go into some quiet place. But while those can be helpful behaviors, they also can keep us from the more painful thing way deep down. These defenses really started in our lives early on, in the first 4, 5, 6 years. They were our best attempt to take care of ourselves when we weren't fully developed, against betrayal, against abandonment, against aggression, against all kinds of things that the world inflicts on us. And it may also be related to a role we took in the family, if we have siblings, or our relationship to our primary caregivers. If one responded one way, we might have responded another way, and we settle into this role. But these mask behaviors are often of two types. That's a big generality, but one of the outer ones, and they're the ones that we're quite familiar with. What we point out, we blame, we judge, we criticize, we do that, and it's just that's the easy defense. But we also do that in an inward way. We criticize ourselves. We judge ourselves. We say we're just not up to the task. We're not good enough in some way. And that also morphs into things like confusion and figuring things out. We go into our head to try, and we don't want to feel this body stuff going on, so we think our way through. We try and figure things out. We analyze. We come up with the right words to say, right? So that's all kind of a form of mask as well. So that's the gist of this idea. It's a face. It's a defense, and it's an avoidance to things that we need to discover behind and underneath. Yeah. Let's see. I think that means I'm going to toss it back to Dani. She's going to start looking at the underneath part.
Yeah,
I realized we had a slide for that, which we didn't.
Yeah, we had a slide for that. So
There it is.
maybe you want to share some more about the different masks we have?
Yeah, well, this is a summation of the ones I spoke to. You'll see in there the outer ones, the outer directed ones, the criticizing, the pride, the blaming, the judgment. And we'll also see the inner ones where we become victims, where we withhold, where we disconnect, where we become submissive, right? Those are all kind of the back away. In some ways, you've heard the terms fight, flight, freeze. You can kind of hold them up along those categories as well, but it's really it's partly based on our survival, the way our brain works. But again, that's built on in these early childhood years. Okay.
Okay.
The bottom line there is what you needed to be in your family in order to be safe or loved. And these are the strategies that we developed and found to be somewhat effective. They worked well enough. In adulthood, they don't work so well.
Yeah. So as Chris was saying, the mask is a protective mechanism. It's where we try to hide on our deeper feelings, although we have feelings attached to that mask, right? I mean, if we go into criticism or judgment or submissiveness or whatever it's our place to go to, right? There are feelings attached to that, but they are more superficial, as we say. And we took this picture of the iceberg because of it's a good analogy, so to say, of how the feelings we're feeling, and some of you shared, right, Sarah and Sorina, about the anger and the yelling and maybe the distress. This is something, those are feelings where we don't have problems with, right? Those are feelings where we were allowed, so to say, to live through when we were a child. And really underneath what the mask is protecting is the more unbearable feelings, which are attached to really to our unmet needs. And we're going to go there after that. But it's protecting, the mask has a protective purpose. And the purpose is to protect or to help us to avoid the difficult feelings, which are underneath that the water, so to say. And those are many times unconscious, or we just don't want to acknowledge them. Even, and it has a lot to do with unconsciousness, right? But those are most of it, as I said, feelings which we're not allowed to feel when we were a child. So me personally, I choose that slide or this picture because for me, anger was not a problem to be shown in my family as a child, right? So I was many times angry and I could express my anger, which was good for me at some point. But my underlying feeling of sadness was a really difficult emotion for my whole family. So it really almost didn't get in touch with this. So it was very buried, very deep inside. And it has been a long time task to get in touch with that sadness, right? So it may be anger in your surface or my surface, and in your surface may be something else, right? So yeah, let's do an exercise on that, Chris, right?
Okay, yeah. We can go, I think we can go on to the next slide. We want to pull these two ideas together, the idea of the mask and the idea of what's behind the mask, particularly the deeper feelings. And this is a little bit of just a continuation of the exercise that we brought you through just a little bit ago. But here we want to focus on the deeper down feelings. So the first is to get there. What's your favorite mask? Do you run away? Do you fight? Do you shut down? Or you could think of it in terms of the inner and the outer that I spoke about. The outer pointing the finger away from you, or pointing the finger toward you as a blame. So what is the mask you put up? And we'd like a few of you that might be willing to share. Secondly, so what is the difficult emotion hiding underneath? And that's where we really want you to take a look at right now. And of course, all throughout, we make sure we bring attention to the body experience of difficult feelings as well, so you can speak to that. But there you see the list from the previous slides, the mask behavior, and then the deeper down feelings Dottie gave her own beautiful story about. So we'll bring that slide down and then see if there's a little bit more sharing that people would be like to do. And if you are not familiar with the Zoom hand that you find under down at the bottom of your screen, you can just wave your hand. We can look for you that way too. You may have a question at this point too, and that's fine as well, but we'll give priority to those who want to share. And then if someone comes with a question, we can do that as well. Anyone? Yeah, is it Tina? Yeah.
Yeah, it's Tina. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I kind of have the two go-tos for mask, I think. One is when it's kind of a lower grade energy, I tend to kind of lash out with sort of sarcastic humor to get to
Yeah.
somebody.
Yeah.
And if it's more charged, I completely withdraw. Not like in submission, but in anger and like, you can't make me engage, fuck you,
Yeah.
and I just cut the person off.
Yeah.
So, what's hiding behind that, I think, is definitely sadness. I don't want to be seen crying. I want to put on a show that I've got my shit together, I'm under control. And, there's sort of I can take it, I'll take you on. And, I feel it in my body and my throat, just tight in my throat, and my jaw is just also tight. It's those two places.
Right. Yeah. And are you generally aware of that body when in the moment of reactivity, when you're right there on the fire on the line? Are you able to?
If I get anywhere near the sadness, I absolutely feel it in my throat, and I'm holding that for sure.
Okay.
So yes, I am. I'm not so much when I'm sort of lashing out in sarcasm. I don't even realize sometimes until later that that's an anger response in me. It's very subtle until someone gets poked by that, and then it comes back at me. And I don't even know why they're starting it, because then I rewind it later and like, oh yeah, I kind of started that, and reacting to something. And that one I don't feel as much, but boy, if I'm really mad enough to cut someone off like that, it lodges right here like crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, but isn't it amazing how these deeply ingrained behavioral habits just we say knee-jerk response because we don't even think, they just happen.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thanks for that. There was another hand up I thought I saw. Maybe that hand went away. Anyone else? Yeah. Sorry, get my Katina? Am I saying that right?
Yeah, that's quite right, Katina.
Katina, yes.
Well, actually, you've been asking which one was my favorite mask. Actually, I don't have a favorite, but I know them all, I suppose. Fight,
You're a very versatile
flight,
person,
and
right?
freeze. And actually, they in different parts of my body. I do have this feeling in the throat for sometimes that you just described. Sorry, I forgot your name, Tina.
Tina, yeah.
I just got it. And the fight thing is the fight is like slamming doors. What somebody else said before, like I need to do something like shouting and I don't know, slamming doors or slapping things or whatever. I did that when I was little quite often. And that is more or less in the breast and not in the throat. The throat is when I have the feeling I won't be understood, like somebody else said before. And when I'm in this freeze thing, it's more or less in the solar plexus. And so it's like 3 levels. One is very much in the arms and the breast, and one is more or less in the throat, and the other one is more or less in the solar plexus.
And do you have a sense of what the deep down hurt or wound or feeling is that you're staying away from?
The strange thing is what the fear is. This is in different states different, like not being understood and or being ignored. What somebody else said before. When I feel this, I don't know, was ist Ohnmacht, Daniela?
Helplessness.
Helplessness. Okay. When I feel like I'm helpless because somebody won't understand me, then I got more or less aggressive in the first place and tried to fight. And at some stage, I might not fight that day, but I will fight that day, but I shut down the next day, sort of thing. And then it goes down to the depth. The thing is that I might be upside down or inside out in some sense, because I do not have so many words for describing what I feel emotionally. I don't have this cognitively. I can very easily describe the feelings I have, because I have this, I feel it very much in the body, but I don't have too many words for it. So
well, that's in our work, that's an excellent starting point, is to know where it is in your body. But then we can explore, and we do this, of course, more in depth in our work. But if you use the word helplessness, we might go try to find out underneath what, well, being helpless, that can be terrifying. So we identified terror as the really dark, deep feeling that we don't want to go near, right? So
yeah,
that's just,
and that's
thought.
Mostly because of being misunderstood or not understood, because there will be just too I'm like stuck in the duality.
Right. But you see how that all that activity up here in your adult world, where you're functioning quite fine, I'm sure, and yet these things happen, and it's really touching on some really survival level feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And so we start to figure out the connection, and the more we can become aware of it, and naming it does help. The more we become aware of it, then the more we can look at it and not be triggered by it so automatically. We can slow the whole reactivity process down. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. I think we have to move on, right?
Yeah. So thank you for sharing. Now we're gonna talk about the needs, and so you've heard it already a few times from us. It's all about the needs underneath that feeling we don't want to feel, and it's really the need we don't want to feel, or the unmet need what we don't want to feel, right? So it's we're gonna give you a short review, because of the time, a short review about the early childhood needs, early childhood development from a body psychotherapy perspective, which goes from 0 to 3 to 5 years. And from this perspective, and there are many different perspectives or concepts about basic needs, and depending on which theory you want to apply, if you come from the attachment theory, and there are many others. But here we talk about, there are 5 basic needs and rights we have as children, as little babies, which is the need to feel safe in this world, the need to be nurtured, and not only by giving breast, by also by touching, warmth, love, right, attention, the need to individualize from our parents, the need to assert ourselves, to know what we can do, what we are able to do, and the need to be seen and loved for who we are, right? So these needs, which develop depending on the phase of our, while we're growing, so to say, these needs are probably not going to be met. Even if we have the most beautiful and the most loving parents, there are no perfect parents, as there are no perfect humans. So, we all will meet or will not get our needs met in some degree or the other. And what it really does to us, it is in that phase in our life, we're talking about survival. So it creates a lot of pain. And what we do in that place of childhood consciousness, but you can need to say that childhood consciousness has another way of thinking of as if we would have a rational mind which has a grown adult. We create images, or images get created. An image is an idea of what I can expect from life, right? An idea of what I can expect from life, or what I can expect from others, and also an idea of what I need to do, or what I need to be, or how I need to behave in order to get my needs met, from life, from my parents, from friends, from an intimate partner, right? But images are also an idea of how I can avoid pain. So on top of these images, we create behavioral patterns. We learn what we can do and we cannot do in order to get the attention, to get the nurturing we need, to get the assertivity we need, in order to feel safe, whatever we need, right? And we build up this behavioral mechanism. And we will try to fill this need, the rest of, or to fill up this need, which is not felt 100% as we were a child. We will try to fill it up in adulthood, and especially through the choice of an intimate partner, right? And we screw it up because we start behaving, or we start relating to the other from our from these behavioral patterns, which helped us to survive when we were a child, but as an adult, they're limiting us with all the images behind that, right? So, and that's the reason why we will create fight and conflict in a partnership, in order to try to get these needs met, right? So this is really the dynamic underneath the underneath dynamic. So it's really that way that unmet needs trigger difficult emotion. And that difficult emotion, Katina was talking about helplessness, right? Helplessness is one of our biggest fear, I would say more than the fear of dying. That is what gets what we think we need to hide or not to feel, or we're, you know, at that point where we were little was unbearable to feel. And we grow up with this belief that it's unbearable to feel, and that's why create all these mechanisms. And from there we relate to others, and that's where we screw it up. So you've seen we had like a top down approach, you know. We've been seeing in this hour, you have trigger points, you have a mask, you have a surface feeling with that mask, but then you have more hidden feelings behind that mask, and behind that are the needs. But really you can turn it around and say it's how you say that, a bottom-up approach, in the sense of that healing comes from getting to know what your needs are, what happens if these needs are not met, what difficult feelings arise from these feelings not being met, and to, you know, to stay in that vulnerable place and communicate to your partner, or to your business partner, sibling, whoever, to relate from here, from that place, from that vulnerable place. So I'm gonna share our 5 basic needs. And so you see, we have in that order of also childhood developmental order, so to say, we have the one of the fears some of us, most of us encounter, is the fear of not being safe. That is a real, also a very bodily experience, right? Many, many times. So from here, I have difficulties of feeling safe. And what I really need is to feel present, alive, and safe. This is what I'm longing, but where I get stuck is the fear, right? I have a fear, depending on my experience, I feel maybe abandoned, left out, or that it's never going to be enough, you know, enough love, enough attention, enough eat, enough food, whatever, enough time. There's a lot around not having enough time in this space. And what I really need behind that is feel the belonging, the taking care of, and the being taken care of, and the taking care of others also. When we are in the phase of individualization, many times the fear of being trapped and overpowered comes, you know, the parents not wanting to give us space to discover the world. So what I need behind that is to get free, to individualize myself and to express myself, right? That's the same for an older, around 3 years, is I start noticing that I cannot trust the world. I cannot trust the world. I cannot trust my surroundings, and therefore I can probably not trust myself. That's the image around that. So what I need is to be empowered and trusted, and be able to trust the world and myself. God, a lot of trusting around God is here, right? And when I say God, I say universe, I say life, whatever is God for you, right? And at last but not least, a lot of us know that one, right? Is it's more in the older stage. It's the feeling of not being enough. So not having enough, that's the second stage, but the fifth stage is not being enough. I'm not enough. And what I really need is to feel worthy and to be real, to be me and feel loved for who I am. So as you see, these are the 5 basic needs: safety, belonging, freedom, empowerment, and worthiness. And your biggest fear, behind your biggest fear is your biggest longing, as we always say, right? So maybe you wanna reflect on what is your need, which need do you relate most to of these 5, and how is this need lacking in your life, right? Or the outcome of that need, not really the need is not lacking, but the outcome, and what is missing for you. Yeah. Let me see. Are we on time? Yeah.
So maybe we can jump into a share, Donnie, and I can.
Yeah. You can take over.
Because we need to start. We want to start wrapping up. We've presented all the 3 levels that we've been discussing with. And so we could just do another round of sharing if more people would like to step in. Again, it's the similar sequence that Donnie just summarized, and whether from top down or from bottom up. Your trigger, how you react, what your mask behavior is, what emotions are underneath that you don't want to, that are trying to defend but are very uncomfortable. And at the bottom, a need that's not being met. And so in this sharing, we could ask you quickly to go through the first 3 and maybe talk about what you're aware of with this really kind of fundamental need. And it's never going to be one, of course. We all have all 5 of those to varying degrees, but maybe 1 or 2 that are particularly are so present in your life. Anybody want to step in and do a share around that? Now we're getting into the real vulnerable part of this work, right? Because this is where vulnerability is what we're staying away from when we fight in a partnership, in an intimate conflict. And yet that's exactly where we need to go, right? At least for ourselves. But of course we have to feel safe trying to be vulnerable. So it's quite a challenge. Anyone want to? Or if there are questions at this point, there might be something you want to bring up that we've talked about. And yeah, Johanna.
Yeah, hello.
Hi.
Thank you for these clarifying 5 basic needs. So the one or the 2 really standing out for me is the need of belonging, that I for a really long time been telling myself and others that I don't need belonging because I am very much capable of taking care of myself and managing everything on my own and solving my own problems. And just realizing from looking at myself, that this is obviously a trauma response and I need belonging as much as anyone else. But and also the need of feeling worthiness, I would say, was connected to that. And that became I was surprised by that insight from this talk, because it was connected to the feeling of the need of belonging. When I think about why I think I don't need belonging, it's connected to my feeling of worthiness, I guess.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I mean, you've touched on, I think, 2 fundamental issues that all of us struggle with, belonging and worthiness. Those are 2 of the 5 for sure, but I think they're so universal. But isn't it interesting how we take a while to, especially in our mature selves and functioning well enough in the world, and okay, maybe a relationship or 2 didn't work out, but that's okay. I got, I came around again, and so it's so easy to really not burrow back to rediscover it again. Maybe that's a way of talking about it. So thank you, John. Yeah. Anyone? We have another Johanna. Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
I have a question. So for me, when I have found my underlying need and have found that a boundary has been crossed, I find it hard to judge how to behave around my crossed boundary. I also feel there is like a gray zone in what can I allow myself to be put at, and what can I not allow. So for example, an obvious reason would be if someone hit me. That's an obvious, like, this is a boundary that's been crossed, it's not good. But then it feels like, especially in a relationship, that there's a gray zone where it's really hard to know if this is the boundary that is healthy for me to work on with my partner, or if it's a clear no, I should not be with this partner because it's not good. Do you understand what my question?
Yeah. And it's a complicated one, as you know. It depends on the history of your relationship to that point, right? Hitting is physical violence, but so is emotional violence a big boundary issue. And when we're taking care of needs, remember, we think of hierarchy of needs, it's taking care of ourselves and being safe. That's number 1, right? So that's always first. When we work with couples, we get into the dynamics of both sides. So for you to decide whether to stay in such a relationship or not really means understanding what's going on for the other person, but it's also about knowing whether that person is willing to look at their own vulnerabilities and their own shortcomings and their own nature of their reactivity, right? I think that's probably the first thought I have. Is the other person in the learning process with me or not? Donnie, do you have a thought about that? Or
Yeah, I think the most difficult thing about boundaries is that we need to understand, and this is really difficult because this is not what we were trained as we were a child. Because we didn't get our needs met, we started looking outside, right? And we were very dependent on what the outside, our parents, society, whatever, would give us, right? So we've learned to set boundaries outside. And boundaries are not set outside. Boundaries are set inside. The other starts where it's my boundary. It's not the other way around. And I think this is a really, it may be too abstract right now, the way I'm saying it, but it's a felt of sense of self, a sense of self, what I'm talking about. So here for you, I would say the learning here is to, and I guess this is what you were saying by the gray zone. You said something about, the gray zone. Where's the gray zone? And there's always a gray zone when the boundary is not clear, right? So this is a gray zone where I would give you the question for yourself. Where do you start? What is your sense of self? Where does your sense of sense start? And yeah, working on your self of sense, I think, and where does your boundary start? I think this would be a starting point for you. And as Chris, I think Chris was trying to say before, this is number one. So you should really take care of yourself, and maybe you need to make some difficult decisions for yourself and get help. But it's important. This would be the next step for me. Yeah.
Thank you.
I
just want to clarify, I'm absolutely not in a being beaten. That was just an example when it's like super clear that this is not good. But then there is like these much more mundane needs that are not met, that I think are the gray zone.
Okay.
But remember, what seem like mundane needs may just be surface representations of much more fundamental, deeper needs as well.
Yeah,
it's good to dig down more.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we're out of time.
Yes, we are.
Let's see. Well, just as a quick way of wrapping up, is that okay? We'll take 10 seconds or 20 seconds. Donnie, if you could put up that 10th slide. We've said this, I think, a number of times now, so hopefully this is just being able to see it. What we really are suggesting to flip down these levels is when you find yourself in the conflict, and all of a sudden, you ask these three questions. What's happening? Meaning, get in touch with the reactivity in your behavior and in your body. What am I not wanting to feel by taking on this habitual response? And try to get in touch with that. And what do I really need under that? Now, all of this is lots of thinking, and you may have to sort of sit down after the fact when you're away from the conflict to take a look at it. Because in in the worst case conflict, you need to stay safe and you need to take care of that first. Safety is always fundamental. But once you are safe, then you can start looking at the nature of the conflict and the reactivity. So that's what we offer to you today. And thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, and we're gonna stay some more minutes for Q&As, but I think Philip, you where are you?
I'm here. I'm here. I'm listening very intently. Thank you so much to you both, Chris and Danielle. I think it's been a very fruitful hour, and I think those questions that you just summarized with really helps us to try to meet those conflicts or triggers with some curiosity. Like it helps to have questions, to keep that with you and stay curious even when you're into conflicts. And I particularly, I think my pearl of insight was just like just the insight of how we're actually escaping or avoiding vulnerability when we're in conflict or when we're in an argument, and how that's the key is to get back to vulnerability, and like just that keeping that insight in my awareness, I think is going to help me a lot in future triggered moments. Thank you so much for this hour and for joining us. And yeah, as you said, we will stay for a little bit in respect of everyone's time. We're ending the official hour here, but for anybody who needs to leave, but we will stay a few minutes to take a few more questions. And we will also send an email to everyone who registered with the YouTube link to the recording, and maybe we could also send out the slides. Would that be okay with you, Daniela and Chris?
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
And also like some links or further references to some of your work for those who are interested will be also included in that email. And then the next Love Lab will happen in quite exactly 2 weeks. So then Monday in 2 weeks from now. So you can also keep an eye out on Facebook and in the email as well. So thank you everyone for joining.
And we will be back ourselves for a second offering later in March. Is that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Nice.
So you can
more
keep an eye
info
out
to
for
come.
that as well.
Yes, great. And yeah, so thank you very much. And for you that needs to leave, you can leave now, and then we will stay and see if there are any more questions.
Yes, I have one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello. Maybe I don't know. Yeah, I can put my camera. I'm very curious to know about the attachment styles. If we manage to be aware of all what we mentioned before, and I guess it's also linked to the attachment style. So that's one question, like how what you just talked about are really linked to the attachment style. And then my other question is like, can we work on these issues ourselves, and how? So we stop repeating the same again and again of attracting the same kind of relationship. And I'm not only talking about love, but yeah, like to become a better version of ourselves and not suffering so much of those triggers, and like kind of like, oh, I recognize you and I smile at you now. Yeah, maybe it's a lot of questions in one, but
Donnie, do you want to talk about the attachment question? I'm going to throw that one to you.
Okay. I'll take the challenge. So yes, it is related. I mean, at the end, the attachment theory does, let's say, how to do this in a very simple way. the attachment theory really talks about 4 different ways we have to attach, or how we relate, and it's depending on the relationship we had with our parents, especially with our mother, and if we've learned, you know, to kind of are we the avoiding type, right? That would be more the part who's saying I don't need you, right? And it's more related to the abandonment part we were showing. Or am I more the one seeking always for connection, right? This is the other side. So I would really need to think about how this 5 basic needs that we have shown today could, let's say, overlap or ingrain to the attachment theory. But it's really, I mean, there are other theories. The next workshop is going to be about autonomy and connection and so on. So you can see that question of needs from different perspectives. So and needs can have different how you say that, different ingrainments, so to say, right? So I don't know, I think it took off. Could I answer your question?
Yes, I wonder as well if
we can do that alone. You said if yeah, excuse me.
No, I wonder like if it becoming like really recurrent and like a bit like becoming almost like an anxiety. Is there a chance to heal that on your own, or is it these kind of things that you really need to seek help for? Because
well, yeah, I mean, opening awareness and doing this kind of webinars and reading, and it's great. And we all have difficulties in coming out of our vicious cycle, so to say. I mean, we are just humans, right? So that is why most of us need help to you know, to move forward. But one of the, yeah, I would say jewels of co-energetics or of the work we do is we work a lot with a negative intention and negativity. And this is what we've been trying to explain today, you know, like, you know, you have negativity, which are the negative feelings, as called negative. For us, there are no positive or negative feelings, it's just feelings. But, you know, like rage, anger, disgust, and all these things are negative feelings. So we work with these negative feelings to give them an expression, also a body expression, and to give them a space. And that's important. But what is really most important, and what keeps you and everyone, me including, and Chris, is your negative intention. It's the part of you that yeah, got hurt when you were young, and is the part of you who is deliberately wanting to stick to the negativity, to the anger, or to the disgust, or to the whatever frustration, in order with a purpose. And the purpose is the punishment of what you did to me, right? And this is really what keeps us in the vicious cycle. The unconscious, many times it's very unconscious, but the negative intention on saying, I'm gonna keep being angry at you, and I'm doing this to punish you for whatever you did to me. And in reality, it's whatever our parents did to us, right? It's not the partner right now, but many times our partners do reflect the positive and the negative qualities of our parents. So, and to see on your own without help this negative intention, it's like your shadow. You've probably heard this, you know, the shadow place. It's really difficult. It's really difficult, as for my experience, right? And I mean, we've been working a long time, and we as therapists, you know, we keep on doing therapy and supervision. So it's, you know, it's probably a lifelong journey. And of course, the more you work on yourself, the more you're aware, and, you know, it becomes easier and you see more. But it's really difficult to do it on your own, I would say. Yeah.
I often find myself saying that I wish we taught emotional intelligence for kids in school. And some places do, but generally not, especially when you get into your teen years where we need that help so vitally and we don't get it that much from home. So, and the other thing that Donnie referred to, of course, is our focus on core is also to learn how to work with the body. And you can do a lot of learning on your own about that, whether it's theoretical or with actual bioenergetic or core energetic practices, or just simple body awareness practices like yoga or martial arts or and so on. And I do a lot of meditation myself. So all of that is supporting inner physical sensory awareness. And that's so crucial to starting to break these patterns that we've spent a lifetime perfecting, right? Yeah. Sarah? Thank you.
Yes. Thank you very much, first, for your amazing seminar. I just wanted to ask you about your future programs, if you would have some other seminars, or hopefully that COVID is going on, if you have some, let's say, daily seminars or workshops. So 1 or 2 days workshops. I just wanted to know if you have some future programs. Thank you.
Yeah, we have the one that we'll bring back to Love Lab next month. I think it's late March. It's really sort of taking off on this conversation about needs and going deeper with that. It's called "What Are You Fighting For?" And our wonderful teachers, Marcia and Brian Gleason, that we did a lot of training with, always see that as such a fundamental question. What are you fighting for? And often it comes down to, is it for autonomy or is it for connection? We start to weigh everything from those two perspectives. So we're going to dive into that question. And of course, the answer is never simple, right? But and then otherwise, we hope to be doing more. We have our website. It's artofrelationship.org. And you can go in there and we will start announcing our work through there and then developing a mail list. You can also contact us personally through that website. It's, am I right, Donnie? contact@artofrelationship.org.
I'll put it on the chat.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
And
our website is the same name, Art of Relationship.
And of course, we're very interested in individual or couple work. Both Donnie and I have our own separate practices for individuals, and we work together with couples. So you can contact us about any of that.
Even outside, because I don't know, I think you are in Vienna, Daniela, but is it possible to do also online?
Online?
Online, yes.
Online, yes.
Yeah. We work online, both of us, privately or separately, as we work as a co-therapist couple, so to say, in helping people in relationship, not always couples, like it could be a conflict with your parents, with your siblings, with business partners, whatever. So people in relationship, whatever kind of relationship is that.
Right.
Yeah, and we do that online. Yeah.
And of course, I think we all know that some of our hardest encounters and our hardest learning is with our family of origin, right? Our caretakers, our siblings, those are the people we set our patterns with. And so they're some of the hardest to deconstruct.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Last question, or are we good? Yeah,
I think we're good.
I think we're good.
Yeah, let me see. Is there any hand raised? No.
And,
no
and
hand
the
raised.
chat are seeing wonderful appreciation there. I'm not seeing a question. So.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
But we hope to see you again. Thank you so much. Thank you especially for the vulnerability of sharing and speaking up and jumping into this somewhat, well, I guess we're all pretty good with virtual communication these days, but we really appreciate it.
Thank you everyone for supporting us and for being there. Yeah.
Thank you so much, guys. And as we let people leave, let's finish off with playing one last song.